Assalamu alaikum. So if you're a Muslim that's been wanting to get married in Indonesia as a foreigner, you've probably wanted to know how much does the process actually cost. So online myself, I got married in Indonesia as a foreign Muslim, and I now help other brothers to do the same process. So what I'm going to do is just share how much does it actually cost, start to finish for myself, so then you can come into it with a more realistic expectation, inshallah. So first things first, flights. So coming from wherever you are to Indonesia is obviously going to differ depending on the person. If you're from Australia, you can get flights as low as $100. But if you're from somewhere like Canada, the US, etc., it can go up to about $1,000. So that's just going to differ on where you're coming from. So what do I recommend? Alhamdulillah, I have traveled like 28 countries now, and Skyscanner is definitely the best app for the flights. It literally compares every single airline, and it's just way better. I also would recommend flying with Etihad or with Saudi Airlines just because they've got a place to pray. They're more accommodated for Muslims. Saudi doesn't have any alcohol, etc. So those two airlines, Skyscanner, you can find those on. And then book a one-way flight. So don't book a return flight. If you're wanting to get married here, like you've already done your vetting online, etc., don't book a return flight. Like you fly over, you've got a month, and then you're planning to go back. Just because things don't generally work as smoothly as that in terms of the logistics. And if you've got a return flight, it's just going to give you a lot of stress. You're going to be a bit more rushed. So just book a one-way flight is my recommendation there. And then pre-marriage, what are you going to spend pre-marriage? So a nice apartment, alhamdulillah, only costs between $300 to $500. Nice amenities, generally swimming pool, gym, and just a nice apartment. All you would need, like a studio apartment generally, or a one-bedroom apartment, kitchen, and you've got everything you need in there. It's going to be a very nice modern design. Generally, that's going to be more West Java, but also a lot of Indonesia's got that. For a 1 month rental. And then 1 month's living expenses should cost you around about $250 if you're eating mainly groceries. Obviously, if you're going to be going out for steak restaurants every day, you're going to be spending more. But taxis here, they're also very cheap as well. Like you can just take taxis here and there. Like you'll be photocopying some documents, you'll be going to some embassy, blah, blah, bblah. Taxis, alhamdulillah, they're very, very cheap. Like you can go for a little 20-minute drive and it's cost you about $1. You can maybe go for a 1.5 hour drive and it'll cost you $10. Like alhamdulillah, it's very affordable. So you're not going to spend loads with that, which is good. You don't need to faff around with all these trying to take public transport, trains, buses, this. You can just take a taxi anywhere and they show up so efficiently. They'll literally show up within like 5-10 minutes, no matter what time, no matter where you are. It's so good. And obviously very cheap. And you're likely going to need at least a month. So in terms of the apartments, you're going to, with Airbnb, which is the best platform here to get it as a foreigner at least, you're going to be able to get a monthly discount. There's always going to be a monthly discount on there. Just do a month. You're going to need at least a month. You can't come into it and just come for a week and get married, is the reality. So personally, I spent $7,400. So this is the actual main answer. How much did I spend on the process? $7,400. So for some people, that's probably seeming way higher than they was expecting. For some people, that's probably way lower. But inshallah, it does give you a more realistic expectation. So that is literally everything. Like I noted it all down throughout the process just because I wanted to know. Basically documents. This includes the documents, the walima, the mahar, the taxis taken. Like I literally included like taxis that I took for the marriage related things, legal costs, and so on. And what was the mindset? It was not being stingy, not trying to save pennies everywhere, and also not being extravagant, not just saying, okay, yeah, we're going to have this big grand wedding, blah, blah, blah. Rather, it was trying to strike the balance between that, which is what we're supposed to do as Muslims. So, the walima was about $2,200. Alhamdulillah, it was a simple walima. Alhamdulillah, it was a segregated walima and whatnot. I think it was about 200 people there, so it was feeding a lot of people. Like what I wanted, I didn't want some like grand, big, fancy decorations, blah blah blah, with less people. Rather, I wanted it to be a simple wedding, but feeding more people. And alhamdulillah, I was able to do so for about $2,200 in a masjid hall. That was, and then the mahar was around $3,300, which is around about the average. The rest was paperwork. So the rest of the costs, which that comes to about 6K, so 1.4K was spent on just other things like paperwork, documents, just miscellaneous things, taxes is included in that, gifts, KUA and stuff like this. prenup, etc. So yeah, that's $7,400 in total. So based on this, I recommend brothers, and based on all the other brothers' processes that I've seen as well, like some brothers I know they spend more, some brothers spend even quite a bit less if they do like a really, really simple walima where it's literally just like a small family meal, in which case you can spend like $200. But this generally is going to be about the average. So I recommend brothers come into the process with at least $10,000 in savings. I have another video on the channel. Say it's titled something along the lines of how much do you need to save to get married in Indonesia, and that should clarify why do I say $10,000. But it's basically to give you more breathing room, and so you come into it more comfortable. So inshallah that gives you a more realistic expectation before you actually come into the process yourself. So if you would like my help finding a wife here, you're in a position where you just don't really know where do you actually find a wife. Like maybe you know some of these apps like Muzz and stuff like this, but obviously many of the scholars mention this is not permissible, where you've got the private text in the photos shared of the women publicly and so on. If you would like my help finding a wife in a halal way, then you can go to the link in the description, and you'll also get my support throughout your process. So inshallah what I can do is save you a lot of time of just literally not knowing where to look, and throughout the process there's a lot of places where people waste a lot of time. Inshallah I can save you a lot of money and a lot of mistakes and having to figure out the whole thing by yourself. I can literally be there with you through the whole process. So you can go to the link in the description, see what do I do, see what I don't do, and then you can see if it can benefit you, and inshallah we can get in contact and then I can be a benefit to you. So yeah, assalamu alaikum.